wish to address this assembly in its constitutional capacity as the State Assembly of the Federal Capital Territory. Grave failure of waste management and sewage services in the Federal Capital Territory, and the rampant desecration of designated green areas and the alleged unlawful seizure of land belonging to Buhari Hospital and other public institutions. Sponsor Senator Ireti Kingibe, co-sponsors Senator Aliyu Wadada Ahmed, Senator Imaswa Neda, Senator Abbas Aminu Iya, Senator Dankwambo Ibrahim Hassan, Senator Kalu Oji Uzo Kalu. Sorry. The Senate notes with utmost alarm and indignation the total collapse of municipal waste collection across multiple districts of the Federal Capital Territory, where refuse has remained uncollected for several weeks, turning residential neighborhoods, markets, business districts, and public spaces into open dumps and breeding ground for disease. Also notes with deep outrage that waste management and sewage workers under the Abuja Environmental Protection Board and other FCT agencies have allegedly gone unpaid for approximately 9 months, a gross administrative failure that has triggered prolonged industrial action and paralyzed essential municipal services in the nation's capital. Further notes that former waste management contractors were owed arrears between March and October 2025, effectively crippling their operations, and that despite these outstanding liabilities, new waste management contracts were awarded in mid-November 2025, arbitrarily retaining only 50% of the unpaid contractors while introducing new ones without resolving existing financial obligations. Disturbed that the newly engaged contractors have formally stated their inability to commence operations without a 30% mobilization fee, therefore compounding delays and entrenching a sanitation crisis that threatens public health and safety. Deeply troubled that sewage systems across the FCT have been blocked and overflowing for nearly 8 months, with accumulated waste and untreated emissions now reaching catastrophic levels, constituting a clear and present danger of epidemics, environmental contamination, and large-scale public health disaster. Aware that the continued failure to clear sewage and waste exposes residents to cholera, typhoid, dysentery, and other waterborne and sanitation-related diseases, and represent an unconscionable breach of the government's duty of care to citizens. Alarmed that in several instances, even where land disputes are subject to ongoing litigation, the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory has allegedly proceeded with demolitions, revocations, and reallocations in flagrant disregard of subsisting court processes, thereby eroding the rule of law, contemptuously disregarding judicial authority, and violating the Land Use Act and other extant laws. Concerned that the egregious case of the University of Abuja, a critical national institution whose lawfully allocated land has been severely depleted, with approximately 7,000 hectares out of an original 11,000 hectares taken over, reallocated, and subjected to unauthorized use, leaving the university gravely constrained and unable to fulfill its statutory academic and developmental mandates. Observes with great concern the systemic and brazen encroachment on designated green areas under the Abuja Master Plan, areas legally reserved as service corridors for sewage, water, electricity infrastructure, environmental buffers, and flood control through illegal revocations, forced evictions, and unlawful reallocations. Also observes that these actions have far-reaching implications for public institutions, private citizens, investor confidence, national development, and represent only a fraction of numerous similar cases within the FCT. recognizes that the destruction of green areas gravely undermines urban safety, environmental sustainability, infrastructure integrity, and the long-term viability of Abuja as a planned capital city. Recalls with dismay that the Senate, barely 1 year ago, was compelled to intervene on similar issues involving unlawful land administration, abuse of ministerial discretion, and disregard for due process in FCT. And notes with profound concern that these practices have persisted unabated in apparent defiance of legislative oversights. Constitutional and legal and constitutional anchors recalls the provisions of the FCT Act 1976 mandating strict adherence to the Abuja Master Plan, the Nigerian Act 2007 empowering enforcement of environmental and sanitation standards, the Abuja Environmental Protection Board Establishment Act mandating waste and sewage management, the Environmental Impact Assessment Act 1992, the National Health Act 2014 safeguarding public health, the Land Use Act 1978 protecting land held in the public interest, particularly for health and education, Section 88 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, empowering the National Assembly to investigate maladministration and abuse of executive authority. Cognizant that continued inaction will amount to a gross dereliction of constitutional responsibility, endanger lives, violate public multiple statutes, and further degrade the integrity, safety, and livability of Nigeria's capital city. Accordingly resolves to 1. Call on the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces, GCFR, in his constitutional capacity as the de facto governor of the FCT, to order the immediate and unconditional payment of all outstanding salaries, wages, and entitlements owed to waste management and sewage workers and contractors under the AEPB and relevant FCT agencies. 2. Urge the Federal Capital Territory Administration to immediately restore full waste collection services and ensure the emergency evacuation of all accumulated refuse across the FCT. Also urge the Abuja Environmental Protection Board to immediately deploy sewage intervention teams to unblock, rehabilitate, and restore all failed sewage systems in order to avert immediate disease outbreak. Demand that the FCT Minister and the Federal Capital Development Authority, FCDA, immediately cease and desist from all revocations, reallocations, demolitions, and alterations affecting designated green areas, pending a comprehensive audit and a strict compliance review with the Abuja Master Plan. Constitute an ad hoc committee of the Senate to conduct a thorough, time-bound investigation into the non-payment of workers and contractors, B, the collapse of waste and sewage management services, C, the procurement of processes, financial capacity, and readiness of engaged contractors, D, the status, encroachment, and illegal conversion of designated green areas, E, the compliance or otherwise of FCTA agencies and officials with the statutory, constitutional, and judicial obligations. I so submit.
We are ashamed of how things were going in Abuja. No street light, the roads were not well maintained, and so on and so forth. But when the current minister came on board, the entire scenario changed. We're having good roads now. We're having street light everywhere. I remember, Mr. President, there was a time I had a guest who saw a beautiful Abuja in the afternoon, even though with the shortcomings, having all sorts of things going on. But in the night, he said, is it the same Abuja that I was this afternoon? Because it was in darkness. But the current minister, changed the entire face of Abuja to a different city, very beautiful city. He He has been doing very well. I mean, we have to call a spade a spade. We have to call a spade a spade. He has done extremely well. Extremely well. Mr. President, if, look, in Hausa, we have an adage that that a human being is 9, it's not up to 10. You cannot solve all problems at the same time. If there are certain areas that are yet to be covered, all we need to do is to tell our committee, go and tell the minister, the hardworking minister, tell him to look at those areas and correct them. I think we should use this approach. For someone who has been doing well, you remember, Mr. President, we're all engaged throughout about 24 days or 30 days going to commission this project, the one project or the other. You were there, you commissioned. I also commissioned. So for us that have seen all these, I think what we need to do, this minister or the administration, is to call, allow the committee to interact and say, oh, you are doing very well, but so-so and so-so area need your attention.
If you are having a matter of urgent national importance on waste management or waste disposal, you stick to it. You focus on it. That is our rule. But when you are asking us to go into payment of salaries, payment of wages, allowances, then waste management, then you will go into demolition of property, you go into land management, you go into this. This minister has a president. The president will direct the minister on activities, and yes, he will be getting approvals from the president from time to time. I think this is too much. This is no longer. Would you describe this as matter of urgent national importance?
Matters like this, as raised by distinguished Senator Ireti Kingibe, are matters that should come under substantive motion on our order paper. There should be motions on notice. And to the extent that she had discussed with the Senate President, and the Senate President
she discussed with the Senate President about waste management. Not about
waste
lack
management.
Of, yes, not land allocation.
Okay.
Not payment of salaries.
So definitely, in that wise, I want to say that the manner of presentation of the motion itself will go to show that it's in violation of our rule. It's not consistent with our practice and procedure. And to that extent, I'm sure rather than us going to prayers, she can be advised to withdraw, this motion.
Having initially called for investigation of the matter based on the principle of audi alteram partem, but after listening carefully to the remarks of the President of the Senate, to the extent that he is not fully briefed of the content of the motion, I still rely on Order 41 to say that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It is bad, and it is incurably bad. Therefore, Mr. President, I urge my sister, Senator Ireti Kingibe, to withdraw that motion because it is in flagrant violations of our rules. And there is nothing to discuss before the Senate based on our rules.